Let's picture quite a common scenario. You're writing a song. You feel great about it. The progression is exciting, the melody is great, and the lyrics portray a heartfelt and relatable story. There is only one problem. You have no idea of how to end it. If this ever happened to you, you are in good company. Even the best songwriters had to deal with this little hiccup at some point. For example, the great Leonard Cohen didn't know how to finish Hallelujah. The song, which is now more famous than ever, developed through quite an agonizing process that lasted several years and involved various rewriting stages. Whether we like it or not, the songwriting process needs to reach a finishing line at some point. Our creation has to take a certain direction and get to an ending. But how do you know when your song is finally finished? How do you conclude a song that seems to have no end at all? In this video, I will give you some tips and tricks to make the process a bit easier. Feel free to experiment with them and let me know if they worked. Tip number 1. Consider the structure of your song. If the song you are writing has a clear structure with distinguishable sections like verses, bridges, and choruses, start by making one simple decision. How many sections are you going to employ? Let's say you want to have at least 2 choruses. Chances are you will need at least 2 verses to go before them. You can also add a bridge and maybe a middle 8 before adding an additional verse or chorus. This is quite a standard structure, and you don't have to follow this specific pattern, but whatever you choose to do, just give yourself some boundaries. This way, you will have a sort of roadmap to follow to finish your job. The second step will be to think about the story or message you want to deliver. You can actually take this step even before deciding on the number of verses you need. Whatever the order you choose, just make sure to equally distribute the pivotal moments in your story throughout the number of verses you decide to have. In other words, find a good balance between story and structure. On the other hand, if you started writing your song without caring too much about its structure and you now have a lot of verses without a clear function, take a little step back. Analyze what you have so far, trying to draw a mental map of where your story is leading to. Now make a decision on the direction to take and decide whether you need some extra sections or if it is necessary to remove some of the ones you already have. Remember, each word has to be functional to the story, the rhythm, and the mood of the song. Last but not least, if you have a clear structure and a lot of ideas for your verses, but you can't find the fil rouge to put them together, you could adopt one of these 2 opposite approaches. You can write freely for as much as you need and accept that the songwriting process will require a lot of time. Or you can give yourself some boundaries and get the job done within a specific time frame, giving yourself a deadline. Whatever the approach, remember, you can always edit yourself later. Until a song is published, and sometimes even after it, you can always tweak your verses, change the song structure, or give your lyrics a completely different direction. Tip number 2, write in one go. To make the songwriting process easier and have a clear song ending, you could adopt Paul McCartney's method. He often writes his songs in one go, without interruptions. These uninterrupted songwriting sessions often result in completed first drafts he can rely on for further development. You can use this approach as well to find some real focus and avoid the trap of never-ending song drafts. If you struggle to find the time for long songwriting sessions, and if you are forced to split them into smaller chunks of time, no problem. Just make sure to set some goals for each session in order to have, once again, a roadmap to follow and avoid overdoing it. For example, you could decide to dedicate each session to a specific part of the song. A little bonus tip: give yourself some parameters to decide when that song section feels completed, at least for your song's first draft. Tip number 3. Adopt a rewriting strategy. As you probably know, if you've been on this channel before, I sometimes enjoy stealing tips and tricks from the world of movies and screenwriting best practices. This tip is no exception. Screenwriters are well aware that their script will have to go through several rewriting stages before becoming a real movie. After a first draft, they often have a couple more writings before they even pitch the script to anyone. Once the script gets purchased to become a movie, at least another rewriting happens to accommodate the choices of the producers and the director. This perspective has two consequences. On the one hand, screenwriters know they have at least another chance to get back to their story and fine-tune it. This somehow eliminates the pressure of having to get it perfectly the first time. On the other hand, however, they also know they have to finish their first draft to have something to work on later. So what can songwriters learn from this? I guess the answer is just put an end to your song as soon as you can, without caring too much about the quality of its ending. Then get back to your first draft and start tweaking what does not work. To avoid getting into the trap of perfectionism, make sure your rewritings happen in short bursts. Tip number 4, play the song to someone. Sometimes we just need some feedback to give our song a proper ending. If you work with another songwriter, then this process should be quite easy for you. But if you are a solitary songwriter like me, it can be hard to judge your song from an external point of view. When you struggle with your tune and you have no idea on how to finish it, look for some advice. Whether it is a friend, a relative, or a musician buddy, play your song for them and see their reaction. Don't just listen to their words. Have a look at their physical reaction to your song. Do they bang their head? Do they move their feet? Do they look moved or bored? And most of all, what is their reaction when your performance is over? Are they left satisfied or not? These hints can give you quite a lot of useful information and help you get in the right direction to finish your song. If your listener seems satisfied with your song ending, that's a great hint that you won't need to overdo it. Remember, less is more. Instead, if your listener seems puzzled by how the song ends, ask them for some further information. Did they expect another chorus there? Or a little outro? Another verse maybe? Listeners, even when they are non-musicians, often have precious advice to give us. Just be humble and take it. Tip number 5, turn a problem into an opportunity. Adopting these strategies can surely help you in your songwriting process, but sometimes a song you love ends up piling up in your archive without ever seeing the light of day, just because you couldn't figure out how to make it end. What if you could turn this problem into a creative opportunity? With the new music industry and the World Wide Web available to us at all time, we can use our songwriting process and struggles as some interesting content for our fan base. Here is what you could do. Take your unfinished song and shoot a video of you performing it. Write several endings and record them all. At this point, it is time to involve your fan base. Ask them, which solution do you prefer? Where should my song go? This is just an example of how you can turn your songwriting struggle into a creative and interesting piece of content for your audience. This way, you get the feedback mentioned in the previous section, but you also create some interesting content to keep your following engaged and excited. Once you've finished watching this video, do a little brainstorming. In what other creative ways can you employ the songs you never managed to finish? Feel free to write some of your solutions in the comments down here. All right, people, these are just 5 ideas to fight a very common songwriting struggle. I hope at least one of them was useful enough to inspire you to get back to one of your old, unfinished songs and give it a go again. What other strategies do you employ to make sure you finish your songs without getting into the trap of perfectionism? Let me know in the comments down here. And don't forget to check out the link to the free songwriting checklist and to my songwriting course, All I Know About Songwriting. Meanwhile, thank you for watching. Take care and happy songwriting. Ciao.